Good morning. Happy Wednesday, everybody. You are now live watching the Sauce Podcast with AJ Reygadas, coming at you live from the Align Studios, S180 Productions. Hey, do me a favor real quick, guys. Go on the YouTube channel, the Sauce Podcast with AJ Reygadas. Make sure you like and subscribe. But more importantly, right now, I got two amazing guests on this segment today that I'm just honored to have. I'm going to introduce them here shortly, let them tell their story. But what I would love for y'all to do, those that are tuned in and watching or joining, is please feel free to ask some questions in the comment section. Share the post. Make sure we get this out there because they both got some amazing stories to share. So without further ado, let me introduce my guest first. Her name is Marissa A. Rodriguez. She corrected me because I forgot to put the A in there. She is an attorney who practices handling insurance defense cases. Is that correct?
Yes, and personal injury as well.
And personal injury, I'm sorry.
Sides.
Yes. And then to my left, I have Miss Melissa. First, I got to say it correctly. Miss Judge Melissa Vara. There we go. Sorry.
Good morning, y'all.
Melissa Vara, who is a county judge who serves in County Court 15. She is also up for re-election this coming November. So make sure you get out there and vote. She's going to share her story with us today. But without further ado, welcome, ladies, and thank you for coming on the show.
Good morning.
For the invite.
Yes.
Thank you for having us.
So Marissa, yesterday, she had asked me, she goes, will you have a makeup artist? And I was just, believe it or not, every time I have women guests on the show, they ask that question.
A glam squad,
so are
we
you
always
gonna have
need
a makeup
one.
artist? I'm like, that's the goal one day, is to have a makeup artist, to fit in the budget. But yeah, as of right now, we do not. I'm sorry.
You know that Jen's a makeup
I was
artist.
joking.
Just keep that in mind.
I would love
Keep
to
that
get
in
her on
mind.
here. I would love to get her on here for some possible, some internship first, if she can work with me and grow
trial,
with me.
a trial
Yeah, trial.
Quid pro quo.
Work with me and grow with me, and then obviously put her name out there for it. But yes, ladies, thank you for joining me this morning. I know that
Thank you.
both of you have a very busy schedule between life and work, and I mean, amazing careers. Y'all have done very well for yourselves.
Thank you.
Yesterday Marissa asked, "What's your angle? What was your purpose? When you thought of this idea of having you on the show?" First, I thought, well, these are two ladies that I went to high school with, and both Latinas, and both have just done very well for yourselves. To where I'm all about women empowerment. I have two daughters myself. And even this morning, it's their first day of school, and I sent them a text. I'm really big on words of affirmations with
Same.
them. And so my daughters like to watch, their mom likes to watch, and so I'm pretty sure they're not watching this morning because it's their first day of school. Shout out to the Northeast ISD getting started
Yay.
today. It's going to be hectic. I'm sure everyone's going to need a margarita later today, all the parents and teachers. But yeah, so let's start with you, Marissa. I'd like for you to just introduce yourself, talk about, who you are, your growing up phase, and just going through as a child, what made you get into practicing law. And so, yeah, just want to hear you share your story.
So firstly, when I was younger, I didn't even think that this area of practice or this industry was available to me.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that a big part of that was because I didn't really have that example.
Yeah.
Okay? I'm the oldest of four. I'm the only one in my family, my immediate family, who's gone to college and who's gone even further than that. So I didn't really
awesome.
have an example set, although my parents worked very hard to give us, a good life, what they could.
Yeah.
But I think that I didn't even know that it was an option.
Yeah.
I took it off the table myself,
Yeah.
which I want for everyone to know out there. If you don't have someone in your life showing you or telling you, hey, you can do this,
Yeah.
I'm telling you today, you can do it. It is an option, and you can do it.
Yeah.
Be that game changer, be that generational cycle breaker for your family, and get out there and do it, because it is a viable option for you.
Absolutely.
So I started because of that. Out of high school, I went to college, but during that time I had a baby. Wasn't planned, yeah.
So juggling motherhood while going to college?
School.
Wow. Okay.
And that was the first time I said, I am not going to be another statistic. I'm not going to let this derail my plans that I have and anything that I want to accomplish. So I graduated college, but I was able to spend some time with my daughter at home, luckily. And then I started law school.
Nice. That's awesome. So if you don't mind me asking, where did you go to law school?
St. Mary's University.
St. Mary's.
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay, cool. And I would imagine, throughout this process, it was a challenge for you, right? I mean, being able to juggle that, being able to, study and all the homework you had, and then just, passing the bar. I always hear about like the idea of passing the bar is just so stressful for a lot of people. And so I'm curious to know, did you pass your first time?
No, I didn't.
You didn't? So it's a common thing I've heard that people don't pass their first time.
Maybe. I mean, I don't know how common it is. I can only speak for myself.
Yeah.
I was studying with a group in a way that I knew was not really beneficial or working for me.
Yeah.
And so, lo and behold, I didn't pass the first time.
Yeah.
That's not the first time I've faced
Yeah.
failure or anything like that. But when something like that happens, you get back up.
Yeah.
I allowed myself a week to sort of process that and accept it and, shed a tear. But after that, it was back to work.
Nice. Awesome.
Because you have to set your sights on, "Oh, I'm going to try again."
Yeah.
You have to get back up.
Yeah. Nice. I love it. I love it. And Miss Judge Vara. I feel like I need to leave the miss out and just say Judge Vara. Okay, cool. I just want to make sure you're not going to, I don't want to get in trouble.
We're not in the courtroom.
Okay, good. Because I was like, man, how do I say this? I want to make sure I don't mess up.
I have to call her Judge.
Yeah. So, Melissa, how about you? Can you share your story about just, as a child growing up, like when did you decide like this is something I want to do? What made you, what influenced you to become a judge?
Of course, I'm from San Antonio. I believe it or not, I've always wanted to be a judge ever since I was a kid, elementary school, you know, and my parents always instilled that like education, neither one of my parents went to college, but I think it's because of that they pushed it so much on my sister Jen and I. Yeah. And, Jen was the oldest, similar to Marissa, but she kind of paved the way for me, being the first to go to UT, going from Jeff to UT is like, you're a small fish in a big pond.
It's a big deal.
Culture shock. And it's so much that's just something you're not used to, right? And so, I really credit Jen for paving that way for me because she helped me out a lot when I was, very scared to start college and I was away from home. And so I've always had my, sights set on education, right? I've always strived to do as best as I could. I graduated second in my class.
Wow. Nice.
I graduated with the highest honors from UT. I graduated at the top of my class at St. Mary's also. And I just always tried to keep that, one track mind. And my goal was like, I want to become a judge. I want to become an attorney and nothing's going to get in my way. Right.
Nice.
And I feel like, that drive, starting with my parents and then like my sisters and other people who are positive, influences in my life. I mean, that kind of set the tone. You know what I mean? And I got an award on Friday from St. Mary's, which was like the 10 under 10 people who've done like significant things in 10 years. This is my 10th year as an attorney. Wow. So I was almost on my way out, right? This is my last chance to get it. And I mentioned in my bio, I'm from San Antonio. I'm from SAISD. I don't come from a family of privilege. And for me, it's important to share that message because I'm a hometown girl that had my sights set on big things and I accomplished that. And I feel like it's important that people who went to Jeff or people who are from SAISD or whatever other, school district know that like this is attainable.
Absolutely.
Right? This is where you should set your sights to.
Absolutely. And it's funny, I don't know if y'all can relate to this, but I know you didn't graduate from Jeff. You went to Jeff, but you graduated from Marshall. Yes. But every time I've been asked, so again, I think that this is a San Antonio thing, but it's always, where did you go to high school?
Yes, it is.
And it's almost like a prejudged thing, right? Like you're being judged up front based on your answer of what high school you tell me. This is going to determine my perspective on you already until I get to learn you more. So sure enough, every time I've been asked, like, what high school did you go to? I'm like, I went to, but I say it proudly. I'm like, I went to Jefferson. And it's either one of two answers. It's well, where's that? I've never heard of that, right? Or it's you went there? And I'm like, yeah.
See, but politically, it's like the best thing ever.
Yeah.
They call it the Jefferson Mafia. It's
The
like
Jefferson
Ed
Mafia.
Garza, former mayor, went to Jeff.
Yeah.
The
A lot of
Castro
high-profile
brothers
people.
went to Jeff.
Yep.
So there's a lot of like name cred,
Yeah.
street cred with Jeff.
Yeah, for
politically
sure.
speaking.
A lot of people don't know that. And then again, I mean, we're a city where a lot of people have relocated here too. So the idea of hearing about Jefferson, yeah, I've met a lot of people that are like, well, where is that? And then that's where I try to give myself some street credit, right? Because I'm like, oh, it's in the West Side. But people are like, no, it's not. That's like the outskirts of the West Side. Because even when people are like, well, where are you from? I'm like, oh, I grew up in the West Side. And they're like, and then the people that know me are like, bro, that's not the West Side. Like, and so I'm like, okay, like the outskirts, but it's still inside 410, but it's the outskirts of the West Side. And so, but no, I agree 100%. You know, I'm very proud of the high school that we went to, and you know, the history that it has, and it's you know, just all of it. Like, it's a very beautiful building. It's a very beautiful building. They've done really good with preserving a lot of the original architect, you know, throughout the whole campus. And so it's a really cool thing, and that's why I wanted to bring y'all on today to talk about that. But also, I want to hear the juicy stuff. So I want to hear a little bit more in depth about your careers. One of the things that I asked Melissa was, and I don't know if she could tell, is kind of fishing on the idea of like, you know, what kind of cases do you handle? Because I'm like, man, if I ever get a speeding ticket, am I ever gonna have to face you, right? That's something that,
like,
believe it or not, is in the back of my head, you know. But yeah, so I'm curious. Can you talk a little bit? I know we can't talk about specific cases, but a little bit more on the type of cases that you handle. Because I know we talked a little bit on insurance defense, but you also said, what was the other one?
Personal injury
Personal
cases.
injury cases.
So there are two sides of the same coin. Personal injury cases would be the plaintiff side, the person filing the lawsuit.
Sure. Okay.
And then the defendant or the defense side is the person being sued.
Yeah.
So I handle first party and third party cases, meaning I can either represent you as the insured of an insurance company,
Okay.
or the insurance company itself.
Okay, cool. So I'm curious. I would imagine once that case falls into your hands, like there's an extreme amount of research you're going to have to do. Or I'm assuming you also rely on paralegal to help with that, or how does that
Definitely.
work?
I heavily rely on my paralegals, and they are wonderful. And if any of you are watching, shout out to you guys. Thank you.
That's awesome. So with that being said, though, too, is there a certain type that you enjoy handling more? Or
A certain type of case.
yeah, like when it comes to you know, how should I say, whether you're representing a small party or a big firm or a big you know, corporation, whatever it may be, like is there one that you're like I enjoy this type, or oh man, this one's gonna be a tough one, it's gonna put a lot of work, I'm gonna have to put a lot of work in. Like, I guess I'm curious to know, like, is there one that you get excited about more than others?
The tough cases that challenge me.
Yeah, so you like being challenged,
I do
obviously.
enjoy those, right?
Yeah.
But the usual cases that I handle when it comes to insurance defense cases are motor vehicle accidents.
Okay.
So I do enjoy the bigger multi-car
Yeah.
accidents where
Yeah.
we're trying to figure out, everybody's pointing
It's a
the finger at
puzzle
everybody
that you have
else,
to put
and we're trying to
together.
figure out whose fault was it.
Wow. Yeah. Interesting.
So I enjoy those. I also handle on the first party side property damage. So
okay.
if a homeowner has damage to their home and they file a claim and it was denied, they later file a lawsuit.
Yeah.
Not a big fan of those.
Yeah.
You know? I mean, you can only talk about roof shingles so
Yeah.
much.
How
It's not very
fun.
interesting, yeah.
Yeah, it's not the most exciting.
Exactly.
Yeah, there's not too much drama in it. So, okay. Now, Ms. Judge Vara, how about you? What type of cases do you typically, what comes across your desk?
So predominantly it's criminal misdemeanors. So a lot of DWIs, a lot of domestic violence cases, theft cases, you know, your normal assault cases that are not family violence. And, you know, sometimes they're life and death cases. You know, when you're dealing with DWIs, like it could be your first DWI and you can kill someone, right?
Yeah.
Or domestic violence. You know, there's a lot of people that are killed every day because of domestic violence. So, I mean, they're heavy topics, heavy cases, and it's weighing, you know, of course, the safety for the community and then the rights of the individuals,
Yeah.
right? So it's always a balance. I also hear civil cases, so similar to what, Marissa practices, those types of cases. One month out of the year, I do both.
Yeah.
It's right now, this month, so it always is like a struggle because I'm literally running like 2 separate
Wow.
dockets, and it's 2 different hats, right?
Yeah.
One's criminal, a whole completely
Different
set of
animal.
law,
Gosh.
codes,
Yeah.
procedures, and then the civil side.
So I would
it's
imagine
like-
even for you as a judge, your mindset has to change because it's like, okay, we're handling this type now. Okay, now this one is for this.
Always. And then for the most part on the criminal side, I mean, it's very rare you have someone representing themselves.
Yeah.
They always have counsel. And because, obviously you can go to jail. In
Yeah.
these cases, even though they're class A and B misdemeanors, on a class A misdemeanor, like a domestic violence case, theoretically you can do a year in the Bexar County Jail. So that's a long time.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Wow.
Liberty.
So,
Yeah.
your liberty's at stake. And then on the civil side, though, you have a lot of people that you're not entitled to counsel on a civil case.
Yeah.
That's, not anything that your liberty is going to be compromised. And so I have a lot of people that represent themselves and they don't know the legal field. And I have to admonish them that you will be treated just as an attorney would.
Yeah.
So you need to kind of know the procedures and the laws, and they never do. And
Yeah.
it's a struggle,
Yeah.
So it's
I can
definitely hard.
imagine. We were kind of touching on that before we went live, and we were talking about that, and I was like, that. Granted, your career field is a much more higher, situation to handle, but it's what I think about too when. For instance, I have a buyer that I'm helping that's wanting to buy a house that's for sale by owner, right? Meaning that seller is not being represented; they're representing themselves. So now it's like, well, gosh, I'm now going to have to do double the work because that owner doesn't understand the contracts. And now they only want to pay me for my representation of my buyer, but I also have to help them on their side because they're screwing up the contract and I have to correct them and just all these things to where it's like, man, I don't get paid enough for this. so I can kind of relate, but at the same time, I'm sure yours is more serious.
It involves a level of patience, right?
Yeah,
and
for
I feel
sure.
like
Definitely.
For
those
sure.
are the kind of judges you want because it's like, for new attorneys, attorneys in general, people who are representing themselves, like the courtroom is a scary place,
For sure.
right? It's a scary
a stressful time.
environment that you're walking into. You never know like who the judge is going to be, what their personality is going to be like. So I try to be like as patient as I can and keep that like, temperament that's just, tough if I need to be, but fair and also like, sympathetic when I need to be.
So I'm curious to know, do you have, because I've seen it on TV. It's funny because now I'm being that consumer because we make fun of the idea when consumers go on Zillow and all these, third-party websites. But when I'm watching a trial case on TV,
Law and Order?
Right. When I'm watching Law and Order season 4 episode, but when I'm watching a trial case and I see the attorneys pushing their buttons, when it's almost like they know that they're not allowed to say that, but they're going to say it anyway and let the judge slap them on the hand. Do you have certain attorneys that you've dealt with on multiple occasions that you're like, okay, I already know this guy's going to push my buttons. I already know he's known for this or she or whatever it may be.
Yes.
Do you have that?
And they tell you when you're in law school and kind of like when you're about to start your career as a lawyer that your reputation is everything and it will follow you. And
I would
judges
imagine.
talk.
Yeah.
Judges know like
Really?
who the bad apples are and like who to watch out
Whoa.
for because there are some attorneys that, as officers of the court, you're supposed to be able to trust that when they're coming in front of you, they're being honest and
Yeah.
truthful and they're including the other side if there's another side or
Yeah.
another party or whatever the situation may be. And that's not always the case. So
Yeah.
I think once you kind of have that reputation for not really playing by the rules, it's going to be hard to change that.
Wow, interesting. Now, I would imagine, so that's I would imagine as an attorney, that's the challenging part is if I have created that reputation for myself and now I know I'm going against, or not against, but I'm going to face you in court. I'm wondering if that's already kind of set the tone for what you're going to expect to deal with me, knowing that we're going to be working together on this trial or whatever, on this case,
Definitely.
and so, gosh, that's scary. That makes me think, gosh, I need to make sure if I ever need an attorney to hire the right attorney that doesn't have a bad, how do we look into that? Is there like a backlog of like attorney credibility besides what you see on TV? Because, The last thing I would want is an attorney to represent me that all the judges are like annoyed with, because that's already gonna hurt me, you know. So I want an attorney that the judges actually enjoy working with.
And everybody's always kind of like, oh, I don't want to be the one after the case when someone like made her upset.
Yeah.
But for me,
Oh,
it's
and then
more
handle
so,
the next case?
For me, it's more so it's like focused on that one individual, and then the next person, I'm just like, I'm sorry. What's going on? How can I help you?
I don't know how
So,
y'all do it. I really don't. So let me ask you this. I'm curious to know on the attorney aspect, why do you see a lot of these personal injury attorneys come on TV and they're always shouting? Like, is that, I'm curious to know, is there like a
show
thing
me the
behind
money.
that? Is it more of a just showing like a dominance type of
Yes.
like personality? Because I've noticed every type of personal injury or commercial I see, they're like, and make sure you call me if you want the blah, blah, blah. And I'm just like,
And have you noticed that they're all men?
yes. And that we're going to talk on
So
that.
that speaks volumes,
Yeah,
right?
you're right. Well, so there's this one, I don't know if the ad is still there, the billboard, but it's right when you exit I-10 and Fiesta, Texas, La Cantera, the
Crawford?
divorce attorney. It's a
Gonzalez.
female. Yes, dude, she's everywhere. But what did it say? It was a really catchy.
Are you thinking of Never Argue with a Woman?
Yes.
That's Tetsmer.
I
Yes.
was just like, oh, that
That's
was
a
so
different
good.
one. Yeah.
She's so right.
It hit.
Like
It hit home.
it hit. I'm like, I know that if I ever have to go against this woman, which guys, I don't break the law. Okay, I just want to make that very clear, because I know I keep talking and like
That we know of.
yeah, but no, I just think of her and I'm like, man, I bet you she is hard to go against, you know. So also, it's really cool. It's really cool to see someone like that putting herself out there and saying, let's go. Like, I'm ready to go to war.
Well, what a lot of people don't understand or don't realize, generally, when you see that big shot attorney on the billboard and you hire that firm to represent
You're
you,
not getting them.
you're not getting that person.
Yeah.
9 times out of 10, you're getting the associate in the
Yeah.
back that you know,
Yeah.
who knows if you're going to hardly
Yeah.
see, if ever.
Yeah.
Right? Which, I'm going to plug my firm in here, Hope and Kazi, which is what is different about our firm,
Yeah.
right? So first of all, we handle both sides, insurance defense as well as personal injury. And the fact that we handle insurance defense means we know what to do
I was just
when
gonna
we
say.
handle your personal injury case.
Yeah.
We know what the insurance companies are looking for.
Yeah.
So we know how to beef it up.
Yeah.
And secondly, when you hire us, when you come and retain me or Mr. Kazi, that's the attorney that you're going to work with.
Yeah. That's very important. It's something that I'm always training the agents on too, you know, because I tell them, like, guys, y'all can go into a listing appointment against me. Granted, we probably would never do that, right? We'd never compete for the same client. But I've said things like, just because someone's more experienced than you doesn't necessarily mean they're going to have an advantage on you, because in most situations as a real estate agent, when that top producing agent goes into the listing appointment, there's a good chance that's the last time that seller or that potential seller is going to see or talk to them.
Right.
At that point, if they get hired, they're going to be passed down to the team. And now it's a different position throughout the transaction. Where versus a newer agent or just someone that's more relationship based, they're going into that
Exactly.
appointment and they're like, you're going to deal with me the whole way. Right? So if shit hits the fan, you're going to hear from me, right? I'm going to own it, or I'm going to answer to it. You're not going to be hearing from my assistant or anything like that. So
Right.
that's a big deal. That's good.
And we kind of touched on it before we went live, but we were talking about hand-holding in the context of being
Yeah.
professional in the workforce.
Yeah.
But I think that's very important when it comes to handling your clients, whether it's real estate or
Yeah.
whether it's the legal profession. I give my clients my cell number because I tell them, hey, if you have a question, what is the reason for you to sit and wonder and worry? And just text me.
Yeah.
Call me.
Yeah.
Let me know what's on your mind. Ask me, and if I could, help ease that stress going
Yeah.
through a lawsuit, I'm happy to do it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it really helps. And my background is in customer service, so I am all about relationships and customer service and empowerment and lifting and supporting.
Yeah.
So I use that.
That's really cool. So I want to know, Ms. Vara, which, by the way, I don't know if you know this, or our guests, they don't know this, but her older sister and I grew up together. We've actually known each other since elementary school.
Wow.
Yeah, Jennifer and I have known each other since, and I think it was, I meant to ask you, but I think it was Jennifer's quinceañera that I stood in.
Yes.
Not yours, right? I think it was hers.
Jen's.
It was Jen's quinceañera I stood in.
funny.
I remember we would have practice at her house, at y'all's house all the time. I can't remember. I think it was Desiree that I stood in the quinceañera with.
I'll find out.
It was either her or one of her sisters. I always stood in a quinceañera with either Desiree or Ruby, or I think I stood with Stephanie one time in a quinceañera. But yeah, I remember that. And so even my mom till this day, she mentions y'all, you know, like she's always mentioned y'all. And I told her this morning, I was like, make sure you watch the podcast. I'm going to have Marissa on the show. And she's just like, oh, okay. So I don't know if she's watching, but yeah, my mom has always brought y'all up ever since we were kids, you know, and
so
it's almost like my mom has created this image, which it's a truthful image, but she's created this image of you and Jennifer of like, see, those are the friends you need to be around, and those are the like they're the good influence on you, you know, not your friends that you're getting in trouble with. And so yeah, but it's a really cool feeling to know that me and Jennifer go that far back, your parents as well.
It's 20 years, over 20
long
years.
Wow.
time,
Dating us,
long
but yeah,
time.
over 20
So
years.
and then were you in oh gosh, why did my mind just go blank? What is it called? I know Jennifer was, where she would sing. What was mariachi? Were you in mariachis as well?
I did.
You
I
were,
didn't
right?
sing. Jen is a songbird.
Yeah, she was the
I'm
singer. I
not,
remember she
yeah.
had a voice.
She did.
Or she still probably
does.
has a voice.
I
But
try to get her to sing like karaoke, or like I'm trying to get her to sing, you know,
Yeah.
country music and stuff. So she
Yeah.
still has it. Jen is a jack of all trades.
yeah,
she's just
that
a talented
makeup.
person.
She's now a real estate agent.
Yes.
Like she's
Yes.
doing great for herself.
That's awesome.
But so let me ask you. I'm curious to know, with your campaign trail, trail, is that how you say it? Campaign
Yes.
trail going on, or has it started already for you?
Yes. So you're always campaigning,
Yeah.
really. That's
Yeah.
the short answer. But
Yeah.
you know, you mentioned the bar. The bar has probably been the most stressful
I would
part
imagine.
of my entire life. And the second part would be the campaign.
Yeah.
Back in 2017 when I started campaigning, I campaighed for 18 months.
Wow.
Straight. So it's like events
Sounds
every
exhausting.
night. It
While
was.
doing your
while
job and
trying
your
to, you know,
career.
I was self-employed at the time, so it's like trying to manage, like, you know, making money, doing the campaign, keeping you know, my stress from going through the roof. And I mean,
Yeah.
it had its ups and downs for sure. So
Yeah.
now I'm in the campaign. It's roughly 90 days from early voting. Election day is November 8th. So it's
Nice.
kind of in high gear right now,
Yeah.
right? So my philosophy was always meet as many people, shake as many hands, really utilize social media, because there were so many people I met, like at the polling sites,
Yeah.
that were like, oh, you're the candidate. Like they don't
Yeah.
expect that, right?
You're actually out there doing the groundwork.
A lot of people hire,
Yeah.
you know, individuals to do that for them. And I mean, I was there at
Wow.
various polling
Nice.
sites. So they appreciated that, I think, one. And then two, it was like, we're Facebook friends, right?
Yeah.
I've seen you on Facebook,
Yeah.
or I've seen your commercial, I've seen this and that.
I bet
And
you
I'm
get that a
like,
lot.
I
Both of y'all.
do. And it's so cool because I'm just like, and of course, like, you know, I may not always like remember everyone's name, but
Yeah.
it's like, yes, I've seen, like, I know I've
I'm
seen
so
your
bad about that,
posts.
too.
Yes,
I'm
me
so
too.
bad about that.
So yeah, that's, you know, how it is right now. It's a pretty stressful time right now, but I feel like it always is, because
Yeah.
my job is politically driven. It's only a 4-year term, so I'm seeking another 4-year term.
Yeah.
But
I'm curious to know, does it get dirty around this time, like dirty politics, where someone tries to use something against you, or
I
just
feel
anything
like
like that?
it can be, right?
Yeah.
Like my philosophy is always like, people don't like to see that. People
Yeah.
don't like the mudslinging.
Sure.
They don't like to see any sort of like negative comments.
Yeah.
I think that turns people off.
I
And
agree.
for me, I was always told, like, never mention your opponent's name. It's about you. It's always about you and what you do and what you bring to the table. And, you know,
And it
my
also shows
first-
confidence. Like, you're not worried about your
Yes,
opponent.
and you mentioned experience, right? Even if someone's more experienced than you, like when I was first running, everybody used it as a negative, right? Well, she's too young, you know.
Oh,
she's
that's right. I didn't
you
think
know.
of that. I bet you had to
and
battle
for
with that.
me, it was like, you know, I'm going to show everyone
Yeah.
that I will outwork,
Yeah.
you know, someone who's been licensed 20 plus years, because the judge that I ran against at the time, while he'd been licensed longer, it was just kind of like, you know, I'm going to put in the work. I'm going to I've
Yeah.
done everything that I said I was going to do. You know, I don't
Yeah.
just do the bare minimum. I help with other cases that I don't necessarily have to help with, but
Yeah.
I continue to do it. You know what
Yeah.
I'm saying? And so, I've always just been of that philosophy that I'm going to mention myself and what I bring to the table, and my opponent isn't really
Yeah.
my concern.
I'm curious to know, you mentioned reputation is a big thing in your career field. Do you know if you have a reputation for being like a firecracker, or do you have a reputation where attorneys are like, oh, thank goodness we got her, like she's good to work with, or not easy to work with, but maybe she's more reasonable to work with?
My hope is the latter, because I feel like sometimes when people become judges or in positions of power, they kind of forget what it was like before. And I'm not saying it's everyone, right?
But they let it go to their head,
and they call it the black robe syndrome, right?
Really?
It's a thing where it's like, and for me, it's always like I try to get attorneys in and out as soon as I can, because I remember what it was like. And mind you, this was pre-pandemic, where I'm running back and forth between the civil courthouse and the criminal courthouse. There's a tunnel that kind of connects them, and I'd have to be in sometimes 5 places at once, and that's just not possible. And then I'd have judges calling like, get here. Of course, everybody wants you there, and it was just like, so I'm very mindful of that, and making sure that my staff was going to be helpful and kind to people and accommodating. Because I think that they're also a representation of you, right?
Absolutely.
And so I've always tried to be that person that was easy to work with, and like obviously easy to be in the court, and I wasn't gonna keep you there for 3 hours knowing you have clients to meet, other courts to go to, things of that effect. So I just try to remember, like, if I was still practicing, how would I want to be treated?
Absolutely. So I'm curious to know too, which I'm gonna have a follow-up question for you on it as well, is Marissa shared with me, I can't remember the statistic, but very low statistic of female attorneys, let alone Hispanic female attorneys.
2%. 2% of attorneys are Latina. So Melissa and I are here to represent. We're still rare. We're unicorns, Melissa. We need to own it. And I think going back to what I said earlier, a lot has to do with it not being visible to Latina girls in their home. That's where it starts. Right?
Absolutely.
And they don't have that as an example, so they don't know that they can do it.
And that's true. And you're setting an example for your daughter, right?
2% of lawyers are Latina.
Wow. So on your end, I would imagine it's the same, very similar type of thing, like not many women, let alone Hispanic women, are judges?
When I go to these regional conferences or conferences where you have judges from Houston, judges from Dallas, judges from all over the state, it's very, you don't see a lot of people that are my age. You don't see a lot of people that,
forgot that too,
look
your
like
age
me.
as well.
But for me, it's trying to turn that, stigma against like people who feel like, oh, you're too young or this into a positive. Because I don't know if you guys have read Serena Williams' Vogue article, her like farewell to tennis. It's a good read for women especially, but also for men. Like it was about her drive to be successful. And going back to like what I was saying about, how Marissa was the oldest of her sisters, Jen was the one who kind of paved the way for me. For Serena, it was Venus that paved the way for her. And she kind of learned from her failures, or just learned from like her journey. And she quoted in the article, Venus always says, if someone tells you can't do something, it's because they can't do it. So I think oftentimes you have people that try to say like, oh, you can't do that, or you're trying to get that in your mind. And for me, it was like, I can do it, and I will do it. So just watch, So, but I think it's important that girls and boys have a role model that they can look up to and aspire to be like.
Absolutely.
Because that's why I think, having a Latina judge isn't like, oh, they're going to rule a certain way. No, it's going to be the same, right? You're going to follow the law, and your hope is that the judge is going to have a good temperament, et cetera, et cetera. For me, it matters more for, representation, and that you have younger people who see it and believe they can aspire to it. When I was doing the CPS cases, I will never forget, I represented children sometimes, and I had a little girl one time asking me kind of about the process, and she was little, so she doesn't understand what's going on, and you have to kind of tread carefully on how much you divulge, right? And so I was like, well, we're going to see the judge tomorrow, and we'll see, what the judge says. And she's like, the judge, the judge is a boy, right? And I'm like, no,
we still have those belief systems in place.
Life lesson. And I was like, you can be a judge one day, you can be an attorney, you can be a police officer, like just kind of giving her that little And she probably looked at me like, whatever.
Yeah.
But, you know, in her mind, it was, you know, not even anything that she really, in her mind, she associated judge with being male, you know? And I think that that's something that definitely needs to change.
I'm curious to know, like, how do other judges treat you? I mean, for the most part, do they give you the respect you deserve? Is it something that you feel like you're still trying to I don't even know if I should ask that question because I don't want to hurt you either. But
no, it's fair. I feel like every woman is always going to have that same battle, you know, especially like younger women. And I feel like it's setting that tone, setting those boundaries that like you are going to respect me, right? You don't have to like me, right? But you are going to respect that I'm in this position, and you're going to respect me as your equal because it's what I am. You know? And I know it in a lot of fields, like you see a discrepancy in pay between men and women. That's not the case in the judiciary. If there's a discrepancy in pay, it's based on like seniority. If you've been a judge longer or not as long,
because you can get sued.
Wow. But you know what I mean? You see, that's not the same in all fields. You know, you have people in the exact same field that don't make the exact same amount because of their gender. And that's obviously an issue. You know?
That makes sense. Wow. So you recently spoke at a women's conference?
I did.
Yeah, can you tell us about
this
that?
past weekend? It was the St. Mary's, their inaugural Latina Law Summit or conference.
Okay. These are women that have passed the bar or still going to law school?
It was a mix.
Okay.
Pre-law, law students, and attorneys, judges, already members of the bench and the bar.
Yeah.
It was wonderful, and it was all about empowerment, supporting, and uplifting one another.
Yeah.
The Express News did a little article on it. Check it out.
Nice.
And they stated that the women that attended this seminar, this law summit, really did feel the impact of that, and they really did leave feeling empowered, which was the point of it. So we're hoping that it will grow and just amass in popularity and continue to be a staple now here in the community, because I think so many of us women, we need it. And I'm a big believer it crosses boundaries, right? So it's not just for your professional part of your life, but it also should be a big part of your personal life.
For sure.
I use that same mentality of empowerment and support and uplifting.
Servant leader. Yeah.
Exactly, a servant mindset in my personal life as well. Many people don't know. This is sort of a big announcement. I'm a survivor of breast cancer, and a big part of that was that mental shift, that mental choice of saying, like, I'm going to do this. Watch me. I'm going to do it. I'm going to survive it. I'm going to kick butt at it. Right? So you have to have that mindset, and no matter what you do, no matter what area of life that you find yourself, it's something that's very important, near and dear to me.
Absolutely. And that's awesome that you get to share that story, inspire others, both of you ladies, where you get to inspire others. Do you enjoy speaking?
I do. So this is sort of, after that Latina conference thing, this is sort of my second.
So you're still warming up to it, but I'm
enjoying
assuming
it.
the vibe I'm getting is you're liking it.
I'm like, I'm liking it,
That's awesome.
It's great. So for me, I've survived breast cancer, divorce, an awful broken heart, and even worse than that. So for me, if I can give back in any capacity, if I can help share my story with someone else and give them some empowerment and some support and uplift them in any way, sign me up. Sign me up. I owe God my life.
I love it. So
if I can give back in that way, I'm game.
That's awesome. Ms. Vara, how about you? Do you first off, do you enjoy speaking? You're on your campaign trail, so you
everywhere you go, you're doing a speech,
putting yourself out there,
you're meeting with people. They want to hear your story. They want to hear what makes you, you. And I feel like sometimes, people will just kind of go on and on about their credentials. And it's like people don't care. People want to know, like, what's your story?
Your personal side,
what do you bring to the bench? Like, who are you?
Do you ever still get nervous?
Sometimes, yeah. Not as much because I do it so often, right?
Yeah.
Every day I'm like running my docket, and it's like you're in front. My Zooms sometimes are like 60, 70 people.
Wow.
So it's a lot, right?
Yeah.
So it's a lot of managing. But there's sometimes where I get home and I'm just like, I don't want to talk to anyone.
Yes.
Right? I just want
that's
to
how I am
just like
all the time.
be with my
Same.
dog and like
Put my phone away.
just have that like me time.
Yeah.
But no, I enjoy it.
That's cool.
I feel like you have to in this job.
I would
right?
imagine, yeah. So do you enjoy speaking live or pre-record? Like, do you notice you do better at one or the other? Do you get more nervous with one or the other? Like, so a lot of people have a fear of doing things live. I've always enjoyed doing videos live, whether it be on the podcast or on my social media. I feel like I do better live. If someone says, "Hey AJ, I want to get you to speak and I want to pre-record it," I'm gonna screw it, especially if you give me a script. That's why you notice I don't have any of my questions on here, just y'all's introductory. Because if I write my questions, I'm gonna screw it all up.
Or just,
You like to wing it.
Yeah.
It takes one thing to just get you off topic, and then you're like, "Oh my god."
Yes. So, so I'm curious to know too. Like, what about you? Can you relate to that? Or?
So I credit my campaign manager for really getting me like polished
Dialed
and
in,
seasoned into that to
Yeah.
know what to say, what not to say,
Yeah.
just kind of, how to be more conversational. Cause I think that's what people like,
Yeah.
They don't want like your, robot answers or like
Yeah.
your stock answers. Like
Yeah.
I feel like people appreciate when you're real.
Yeah, I agree. Authenticity is very,
Yes.
very key to a lot of people's success. Another thing too is I'm curious with your campaign trail, are you having to do you do any type of training or practice like with Toastmasters, with public speaking in that aspect, sort of say like what you were just talking about? But I guess what I'm getting at is, for instance, whenever I do these seminars for real estate agents, and sometimes I'll have other real estate coaches or business coaches. I'll invite them to come because I want them to critique me and give me some feedback, on what could I have done better, said better, whatever it may be. And for instance, one of the things that I'm guilty of saying a lot is right. So shout out to Matt De La Cruz. He's a real estate coach, but he went to my class one time and he sat in the very front, and I see him the whole time taking notes, but at the end of the seminar, he goes, "You said right 54 times." And I was just like, oh my gosh. And then now it made me more conscious of it, to where I was like, okay, this is what I need to focus on, is not saying right. He was like, because when you say right, for someone that doesn't know you, it makes me want to believe you don't know what you're talking about, or you need reassurance because you're not sure. And I'm like, man, that makes total sense.
It's deep.
That's not the case, but that makes sense.
Yeah.
I say right because of a habit. And so I've gotten better at it, but I still catch myself saying it every now and then. Is that something that you practice on with your campaign manager?
So she'll definitely give me pointers.
Yeah.
But I feel like once you have your speech down, it's pretty easy. You'll deviate from it, of course, based on the circumstance or the environment. But for the most part, it's always, my philosophy is always short and sweet, right?
Okay.
Enough to where you're engaged with them, but not overkill to where they're like, okay, I'm gonna get on my phone,
lady. I
or
checked out
I'm
a minute
over
ago.
it.
Yeah. Okay.
Because the whole point of it is you want them to remember you. You want them to remember your name. You want them to vote for you, because that's that's the
lasting
point.
impressions. A lasting impression. Okay, cool. So I wanted to talk to you two ladies, if it's okay, on this one topic that I was having a conversation just last night with one of my agents, and she's handling. I have several agents, including myself, right now, that we have clients that we're working with that are going through a divorce. Right, and it seems like 2020.
Have them call me.
Okay, well, good to know. We gotta get you plugged in. But it seems like 2020, that was the big talk, right? Was a lot of people are now filing for divorces, or they've made up their mind that they're getting divorces. First off, is there still a spillover of that? Because I see it in my end, but I don't know if that's realistic, if that's just expected to see it on my end because of the type of clientele we work with. But also, what's y'all's thoughts on that? Because it just seems like in 2020, a lot of people realize, you know what, you're not the one for me, for whatever reason.
I can't speak so much to the divorce aspect of it, because I don't really handle too many of those cases. But I will say, the pandemic in general, it just threw the court system for a loop.
I would
because
imagine.
No judge or attorney has ever experienced that, right?
Yeah.
It's been 100 years since the previs pandemic,
Yeah.
right? And it's literally finding a whole new way of doing things, right?
Yeah.
Zoom, just living in a virtual world is what we had to do, right?
Yeah.
And the problem with that is that on the criminal aspect, you have to have jury trials in person. So if we didn't have the green light, those jury trials were just getting pushed back and pushed back and pushed back. And then we'd get like a small window where we'd be able to do it for 2 months, and then there'd be another spike. So then we were shut down again. So imagine people are continuing to get, charged with crimes.
building up.
And it's just like the backlog is just continuing to grow. And we saw it a lot on the domestic violence end, to where before there was only 2 courts at the county court level that exclusively heard only domestic violence. But the pandemic created such a spike in domestic violence because obviously you have people at home that are...
Cabin fever.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so the majority of the county courts then decided collectively, like, we're going to assist with that docket, right? It's what the community needs. It's what the accused need. And we kind of disperse the cases amongst all of us to where we all, for the most part, except for a few courts here, the domestic violence cases. So the pandemic has definitely changed the practice of law.
Wow. I'm curious to know, what have you enjoyed more, handling cases through Zoom or in person?
I'm in person.
Yeah.
I'm old
Same.
school.
Yeah.
Me too.
I
In
like
person. It's different.
Throughout the whole
Yeah.
pandemic, I would go to the courthouse because my dog makes it impossible to work from home. So I just preferred that. So I'll do Zoom from my chambers. In the building.
Okay.
I feel like you need a body in the
Get yourself
building,
in that
right?
setting also.
Yeah. That also I feel like, and I even studied that way. Like in law school or undergrad, I needed to be at the library because if I was at home, it'd be like, I'm just going to take a quick nap or I'm going to do whatever, So I definitely preferred in person, but I can definitely also see as an attorney the benefits of Zoom, right?
Yeah.
Because there'd be days where, you get ready, you go to court, you pay for parking, you go through this whole fiasco and your case gets reset, So I definitely see that like for pretrial matters or matters that you might not have a trial or have an actual hearing where you're going to hear evidence and have to have like an actual proceeding done, the advantages of just being able to handle that kind of
Quickly.
conferring the pre-trial work just through Zoom. But for me, it's like I'm in person for sure. I prefer that.
How about you? So what's your thoughts on the whole divorce rate and everything that's going on right now?
I don't know that I've necessarily seen an uptick in divorce in general. I mean,
I just have friends that fight a lot. No, I'm just kidding.
No, divorce is always fed the judicial system or litigation, right? So I don't know that I've necessarily personally seen an uptick in that, but I don't know. I mean, not everybody's getting divorced.
True. Sorry, I'm not trying to have a negative outlook. I apologize
Ben
for
and
that.
Jen
to
got
all my
married,
viewers.
so there's that. There's hope for us all.
Kim and Pete just broke up, though. So, I mean, again, I'm not trying to be negative.
I don't think anybody's surprised about that one.
It was bound to happen.
Yeah.
It was bound to happen.
Yeah.
No, that's cool. So, okay, let me ask both of y'all this. We'll start with you, Marissa.
Shoot.
I'm not even gonna ask if you get this. I'm pretty confident both of y'all get this. So,
Yeah.
what do you do when a family or friend wants to call and ask you for legal advice, especially in a maybe in a particular field that you're not familiar with working?
Right. A specific area of practice.
Yeah. There you go. Specific area of practice.
So generally, I take the call. I respond to the text. If I don't know, I let them know, and I do try to connect them with someone who does.
Yeah.
I try to cover that step, right? Because I don't want to be the type of person that's like, I don't know, good luck.
Yeah.
I'm always like, you know what? Let me see if I can still help you in some way, even though it may not be that may not be me that you end up working with, but let me put you in the hands of somebody who can help you.
Yeah.
Because
So the
essentially that's what
resource.
they need.
Yeah.
It's not me that
You're the
they need,
resource.
it's the help that they need.
Yeah.
Right. So.
Okay. What about you? Do you have family, relatives, friends that will be like, so what do you think on this? And
This is it's like a saving grace also, right? Being on the bench, like, I'm precluded from giving legal advice.
Oh, good.
I'm
So you get
precluded
to
from, and so I'll have so many people that just like randomly message me, and even I'll have defendants sometimes or people that have cases in the court that message me. I have to print that out, right?
Yeah.
And put it in the court's file, give it to both sides so that they know.
Yeah.
And, a lot of times I'll have other people running my social media that will tell them like this isn't a personal social media, like,
Right.
things like that. And so, But for family and close friends and things like that, it's just, I have to tell them. Like, I
Yeah.
can't. Like, it's not the same.
Yeah.
It's not the same.
Do they still? Is there some of those family members though that still try to test that limit with you?
I'm sure. But the cool thing is, obviously, I have a lot of friends, and
Yeah.
like one of my best friends is a paralegal. So
Okay.
I'm like, call Elsa. She'll
Yeah.
hook you up. She'll point you in the right direction,
Yeah.
right? Because there's a lot of rules that are associated with, the judicial code of conduct, which is basically like what we're governed by, which
Yeah.
is separate from, like, obviously I have the rules I'm governed by as an attorney,
Yeah.
but then it's even a higher threshold for a judge, because they always, the common saying is like, you have to avoid even the appearance of impropriety. So like, for instance, one of the things I learned at judges school was, like, before, my dad would post cars all the time, right? And I
Yeah.
would share his posts and share, like, my friend that does hair, and share Jen's post for whatever she was advertising, and that's like a no-no, right? You
Yeah.
can't do that. So once I
Yeah.
took the bench, it was like, I can no longer be seen as endorsing anyone or taking
makes
a
sense.
stance on anything,
Yeah.
or being, doing anything that someone could perceive I'm on one side or
biased.
another.
Yeah, you're biased. Okay,
Yeah.
that's interesting, because I have a past client of mine that he's a federal prosecutor. His wife, she's retired now. She was an assistant district attorney, and now his daughter, I believe, works for a district attorney's office as an attorney. And I remember this one time, the wife sent out an email. I guess it was during campaign time. She sent out an email saying, "Make sure y'all go vote," and blah blah blah. And I believe, if I'm not wrong, because this was years ago, that she mentioned who she was voting for. Right away, the
backlash?
husband. Well, I don't know about the backlash, but the husband, the federal prosecutor, came out with an email and says, "By no means does this does this
I'm not
represent me?"
endorsing
Like,
that
yeah, I'm not
person, yeah.
like. I was just like, "Ooh, this is getting good and juicy." Like
There's
through email,
There's also rules. Like, I mean, of course,
Yeah.
you can't send, like, through my county email. I can't
Yeah.
send anything political, or
Yeah.
you can't campaign at the courthouse.
Yeah.
Like, you can't. There's a lot of just, like, or county buildings in general. So
Yeah.
there's a lot of strict rules that you have to be careful that you
I
abide
feel like
by.
I'll break all
because-
those rules just by
No, I'm
negligence.
I'm the opposite. I'm like, oh my god, I'm not gonna break any of these rules. So,
You learn.
Wow. So, let's. I want to get back to what we kind of touched on, is the whole women empowerment thing. Is there something that either one of you are specifically doing that you figured out? You know what? This is how I can help pour into my community. Given that we're both from the inner city community, but also just pouring into helping other women come up. Is there something that you've noticed? You know what? I'm doing this and I enjoy this right here because I feel like it can really add value to helping uplift other women, besides the speaking that you've done? Or is that what you're using to help that?
I'm starting to, this is only my second experience in terms of real public speaking. So I'm trying to use that as a vehicle to do that, but in my personal life, I connect with people all the time on a personal level and help them that way, especially with the breast cancer situation. I've come across many women, and I'm grateful for it.
Yeah.
And I try to help encourage them. I'm here for them because it's a journey. It's a process, and
Absolutely.
you have your days
Yeah.
where you let that fear set in, and you don't know what to do. It's a constant thing that you have to battle,
Yeah.
and it's so much harder when you don't have someone that you can call or that you can go to and just say,
Feel all alone.
"I'm scared."
Yeah. I get that.
And I'm
I
that
can't relate,
person.
obviously, but I get it because I instantly put myself in a mindset of like, man, like I can imagine the outpouring of support you get from family and friends during that
Exactly.
time, but they don't truly know exactly what you're going through because they can't necessarily relate to that specific situation.
Right. You don't really understand it on that real deep level until you yourself are going through it. And I've had women going through, again, breast cancer journey where all I've had to say, you hear the distress in their voice.
Yeah.
And I just say, "You'll be okay."
Yeah.
And that alone right there,
I
it
bet that's
may
powerful.
seem like a simple phrase, but it has so much power.
Yeah.
Right, for someone going through that. And you hear the sigh of relief in their voice.
Yeah.
And they are just so thankful. And for me, if I can do, I would love to do it on a massive scale,
Yeah.
but even if I can do it a little at a time
Yeah.
here within my community, I am so happy to do that. I just joined a committee not too long ago. It's Women in Medicine and Law.
Mm-hmm.
And we are associated with the Thrive Well organization. If you don't know about it, check it out.
Yeah.
Where we raise money for cancer research and cancer patients going through treatment who cannot afford it. So it's a very important organization here within the San Antonio community, and I encourage all of you, because I know that if you're not going through cancer, you know somebody who is, whether it's a friend, a family member, a neighbor, anyone. And it makes so much of a difference when that takes something off of their plate, right? The financial stress of having to pay for treatment, having to figure out, how can I pay for this so that I can live?
Yeah.
Because it will save my life.
Yeah.
And when you can do that, when you can give back, when you can help in that way, just to make it a little bit easier, it's a great thing.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And that's really important, especially with, we can get political, but I'd rather not. But just, seeing how challenging it is for our country and people here that struggle with the ability to get health insurance coverage or being denied with pre-existing issues and things like that. Like, I do believe we're heading in the right direction, but I think it's taken a little bit longer than anticipated, or that a lot of us have hoped for. But I do think that we're heading in the right direction with that. But I still think we got a lot of work to do, but it's still good. It's still good. It's positive. It's something to look forward to. But I think with a situation like that, something needs to happen sooner than later, because we don't have time. Time is not on our hands in our favor when it comes to someone that's battling cancer.
Oh, definitely.
That's their biggest enemy is time. And so I lost a close friend of mine, a very close friend of mine last year to cancer, and it was tough. She was a very young woman, very successful. Oh gosh, what was it?
I didn't mean to.
I remember it was on her spine and spreading. I can't remember the term.
Spread to her bone.
Yeah, and man, that was her fourth time battling it. And as a young woman, I was blown away seeing what she went through, and her outlook and just everything. It was really inspiring. But at the same time, I couldn't help but think, like, she was a very fit woman. Right, very fit, very healthy, was a runner, and there would be days when she was going through chemo. There would be days where I'd go over and visit her, and she couldn't even get out of bed.
She'd be weak.
Like, she was just, I was just, wow. I remember the first time I saw her like that, I was just like, I remember she was like, I left the door open, I can't even get out of bed, so just come in.
Cancer knows no boundaries.
It
doesn't matter whether you're rich, poor, black, white, Hispanic, orange. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
It can affect anyone.
Yeah, absolutely. So what about you? For women empowerment, influencing and helping, like, what is there a certain target or goal that you're doing with outreach to also, because you got a lot on your plate, considering your position.
On a community aspect, it's the same types of like speaking engagements I get invited to do, like that Marissa did, right? So it's sometimes high school, sometimes it's college, sometimes it's law school, females that just kind of want advice, right? They want to see different people's perspectives, whether it's attorneys or like other politicians or, judges, of course. And so anytime I get invited to do that, of course I'll do it, right? Another community like outreach that I do is career days, right? And it's elementary school. And some people are like, what are you going to tell these elementary school kids about,
That's
but
awesome.
it's like,
no, it's a lot of fun.
They get so excited.
They
I take
do.
my robe, I take my gavel. And again, it's in their inner city schools.
Yes.
So it's letting these kids know, like, I came from an elementary like this. You guys can do this, right? And it's, to me, that's always been so important to me, because it's like people that came from like our neighborhood or like our high school that are doing great things, like that needs to be celebrated, right? Like my grade, one of my close friends was a valedictorian, and he's like doing great things in New York, killing it as an attorney, and it's just like, it's awesome to see that, right? On a personal level, what I found as an attorney, especially at the beginning of my career, was, of course you have people that are like, oh, they're new, they don't know what they're doing. But you'd find that the women were sometimes the harshest on you,
really?
Right? They were sometimes the cruelest.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And I always had that mindset, like, when I'm not always going to be young.
Yeah.
When I'm older and, when I become a judge, like, I'm going to remember, like, what it felt like when people treated me, a certain way.
Yeah.
So I try to be as kind and like as helpful to new attorneys, especially because hand-holding, right?
Yeah.
It's needed,
You're like,
right?
I was there.
Everyone's been there. So when I see
Definitely.
someone that's like picking on a new attorney, it's like, no, we've all been there, right? But it's also opening the doors for other people, right?
Yeah.
Like for me, when I was campaigning, I was, the youngest one. As it stands, I'm the youngest elected judge in Bexar County, right? I was elected at the age of 32.
Yeah.
And so...
See me history?
Oh, I don't know
In our
about
local,
history. I
like,
don't know.
At least locally, maybe?
Right now, I'm the youngest. I don't know about in
Wow.
the past, right?
Yeah.
If there was others that may have been younger or not.
Yeah.
But I celebrate that.
That's
Because to me, it's like I have done this, right? Accomplished my goal, but also like made my community proud, right? You don't see me on the news. Like everything I do in my personal life is always with that mindset that like I have to make my parents proud, my family proud, my friends proud, my community. I'm from here, right? And I think that that's also like my driving force, right?
So I don't want to show your cards because I know you've started your campaign trail. I don't want you to share that, but I was curious to know, do you feel it's a little bit more easier this time running re-election now that you've kind of, in my opinion, been over that hump of like getting the position now that you have it, you got some experience, do you feel like it's going to be a little easier this campaign trail versus the last one?
I feel like yes, because you know what to expect.
Yeah. Okay.
You know what I mean? The more difficult aspect is before, when I was running my own practice, I had the flexibility to set my schedule.
Yeah.
Now I don't, right? I have dockets every day.
Yeah.
I have hearings every day.
Yeah,
so it's like
balancing and juggling
that's
that.
going to be a definite like balancing act.
Yeah.
But for the most part, I feel like it'll definitely be easier now that I know what to expect.
Nice. Awesome. Well, ladies, thank you so much. I believe we went over the hour already. And
That went by
it went by. I
quickly.
told you I was going to go by fast. But I wanted, real quick, before we end the segment, I want y'all to just, you talk about your campaign trail really quickly, briefly, but you as well. How can people find you?
You can find me in a couple of ways. So on social media, Facebook, it's Marissa A. Rodriguez. And that's Marissa with one R, two S's. On Instagram, I am M834. And then look up the Hope and Cause You website. You will find me on the website and just find out more about our firm in general and reach out to me. Let me know. Call me. Let me know how I can help you.
Awesome. Thank you. And Miss Judge Vara.
You can find me on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, Judge Melissa Vara. My website is votemelissavara.com. I would appreciate your vote. Just some facts for you. Not facts, dates for you. The election is November 8th this year. It's a countywide seat, no particular district or precinct. As long as you live in Bexar County, you can vote for me. Early voting starts October 24th and runs through November 4th.
Nice. Remember the name, Melissa Vara, when you go to the vote, okay? Or when you go to the polls, make sure you remember that name, Melissa Vara, okay? Ladies, thank you so much for joining me today on the show. I really appreciate that. I know y'all have a busy schedule, and I know that y'all have a lot going on, so it means a lot to me that y'all were able to squeeze in some time to come in on the show
Happy to do it.
and help pour into maybe other viewers, other women that you might have inspired, or I guarantee you inspired someone today. So thank you
And
for that.
thank you for the invite.
you.
And thank you for
Absolutely.
being a man that supports women.
Oh,
'Cause
absolutely.
That's important too.
Absolutely. No, like I said, my daughters are, I want to play an influence on them. I want others to play an influence on them. And so that's why I enjoy having women, that have been very successful in their careers on the show to help young women like my daughters, to give them something to look forward to or look up to. And so, yes, thank you very much for everything that y'all do for the community. But yeah, everybody, thank you for tuning in. Please make sure you like, comment, subscribe to the YouTube channel, The Sauce Podcast with AJ Reygadas. Thank our ladies for joining us today. Make sure y'all have a great day, make an impact on someone's life, and have a blessed one. Have a good one.